Good morning. Welcome to Chapter 3. We'll start with Section 3.1, Measures of Center. Another way to describe data other than using a table or a graph is to summarize the data numerically. We begin with the center of the data. There are three types that we will discuss: the mean, median, and mode. The sample mean, or the arithmetic mean, is given by the following formula. We denote it by X bar. This is how we read it, X bar. And it's the sum of all data values divided by the size of the sample given. Using mathematical notation, we write it as follows. This is our capital sigma, and we use a capital sigma to represent sum. They both start with an S, sigma, sum. And xi are just each individual data value given in our data set. So we sum all of our data values, xi, and we divide it by the sample size we denote by n. Let's look at an example. Students were surveyed to find the number of hours they sleep per night during the semester. Here is a sample of their self-reported responses. We want to calculate the mean. So we have 5, 6, 8, 10, 4, 6, and 9. Now notice there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 data values. And each of these represents an individual xi. So this would be, for example, x1, x2, x3, x4, x5, x6, and x7. So we're going to sum all the values and divide it by 7. Doing so, we get 6.9. Now, another way to do this for larger data sets is to utilize our calculator. Now, either you are using a TI-83 or TI-84, or you've downloaded our NCalc84 app. And this is free for any smartphone. So and the buttons are going to look the same whether you're using the graphing calculator or the calculator app. So to use our calculator, we start on the home screen, and we start by clicking our stat button, which is somewhat in the middle here, right? So we'll see the button that says stat. So we click our stat button, and now it will send us to a screen. And we want to make sure that edit is highlighted here, right? Not any of these, but we want to highlight our edit feature. And we're going to click edit here. And this is how we create lists in our graphing calculator or our smartphone app. So we have our list L1, L2, L3, so forth, but our data values are going to be portrayed in our list L1. So we list all of our data values, 5, 6, 8, 10, 4, 6, and 9. These are coming directly from our data set given in the problem. And when we input it, we want to click enter after each one so that it stays in our row. And if you mess up, you can use the delete button to remove that value from the list. Once we've done that, we want to click second and then mode. So second mode, and this will send you back to the home screen. So second mode. And we want to once again click our stat button. So we're back at our stat button, and instead of highlighting edit, we want to now highlight our calc feature. This is going to calculate our statistics. Once we highlight our calc, we're going to click on the 1var stats, very top here. Click on the 1var stats, and now it's going to pull up 1var stats, and we want to enter our column, our L1, into our function. This is our calculator function. So we're going to click second and the number 1. And this is our L1 feature. And we're going to close off our command by closing off our parentheses. and it will display all of these values, and we have the very first value, mean x, is 6.9. This is our x bar that we calculated originally, okay? Now, there's another type of mean, and this is the weighted mean. So the weighted mean is the mean of a data set in which each data value in the set does not hold the same relative importance. The formula for calculating a weighted mean is given by the following. We still use x bar because it's a mean, but we're going to put a W with it so that we know when we see this that, oh, that's a weighted mean. Now, again, we have a formula using our mathematical notation. This says the sum, remember sigma is sum. Sum of what we're going to do is take our xi's, these are our data values, and multiply them by their respective weights. And then we're going to sum all of those products. So we're going to multiply first, and then sum, and then take that answer and divide it by the sum of all of our weights here. Note that your grade is calculated using a weighted mean. So let's look at an example. The syllabus in Walter's U.S. history class stated that the final grade is determined by tests, which account for 40% of the grade, homework, which account for 20% of the grade, quizzes, which are 10% of the grade, and a final exam worth 30% of the overall grade. Walter wants to calculate his final grade in the course. Below are his average grades in each category. Calculate Walter's final grade in U.S. history. So he's received an 83 in our tests category, a 98 in our homework category, a 90 in our quizzes category, and an 87 for the final exam. Okay, so we can use our formula, however, it's easier to utilize our graphing calculator or again, our smartphone app. So when we edit our table, so remember this is what we just did with our previous example. When we edit our table, we input the data values. So our data values want to go into the first column, which we call L1, and our weights will go into our second column, L2. And note that whenever we use percentages in calculations for this class, we will convert them to decimal values, okay? So percentages always turn into decimal values when calculating them using the calculator. Okay, so again, we want to click our stat, and we'll highlight our edit and click edit. This will get you to our list of tables here, our L1 and L2. So I'm going to put my data values, 83, 98, so forth, right? These are Walter's grades in my L1, and I'm going to put the respective weights. Remember that tests accounted for 40%, so I'm going to put 0.4 in the same row as his grade for the test category, 83. And homework accounted for 20%, so I'm going to put 0.2. Quizzes accounted for 10%, so I'm going to put 0.1, and then remember the final exam was 30%, so I'm going to put 0.3. And now I click second mode. This will take me back to my home screen, and then I'm going to click my stat button again and highlight my calculate and enter my 1var stats, exactly as we did in the last example. However, this time, when my command pulls up, I want to input, I click my second and my number 1, and this will give me my L1, and then I'm going to put a comma, so click my comma, and then second and number 2, and this will tell the calculator that we have data values coming from L1, but now there's weights involved coming from L2. And I'm going to close off my function and hit enter. And this will pull up my statistics. So the very first value is our mean. This is our x bar W, our weighted mean. 87.9. So X bar W is 87.9. So that's Walter's final grade in the course. Another measure of center is what we call the median. The median is the middle value in an ordered array of data. An example here, given the number of absences for a sample of students, find the median. So we have 5, 7, 8, so forth. Okay, so again, we can do this by hand, but it's quicker to utilize our technology. So we're going to go through the same techniques and input our data values into our list L1. We're not going to have an L2 column in this case because this is not weighted. Okay, so we're just going to put our data values into L1. We're going to calculate our 1 var stats. And if you scroll down, you'll see MED, and this stands for median, and we see that the median of this data set is 7.5. And then finally, the last measure of center we will discuss is what we call the mode. The mode is the value in the data set that occurs most frequently. If all of the data values occur only once, or each occur an equal number of times, we say that there is no mode. If only one value occurs most often, then the data set is said to be unimodal. If exactly 2 values occur equally often, then we say the data set is bimodal. And if more than 2 values occur equally often, the data set is what we call multimodal. Okay, so let's look at a couple examples and see the possibilities of finding the mode. So given the number of phone calls received each hour during business hours for 4 different companies, find the mode of each. So here's our first company, the phone calls received each hour. And to make it easier, what we want to do, now yes, we can try to figure out which value occurs the most, but I always like to order the data, and I always just go from smallest to largest. So I'm going to rewrite the data, and now it's very easy to see that the number 7 stands out. Notice that 7 occurs 3 times, which is the most occurrence in this data set. So 7 is the mode, and we say the set is unimodal. Looking at our second company here, again, the phone calls received each hour. Again, I'm going to order the data to make it easier. And now we notice here that no number stands out. Notice that each number occurs only once. So in this case, since all of the values occur the same amount of times, we say there is no mode. We never want the entire data set to be the mode. Our third company here, I'm going to play the same game. I'm going to order from smallest to largest. And now I notice that my 2s and my 7s stand out. 2s and 7s both occurred twice. So in this case, 2 and 7 are the mode, and the set is bimodal. So measures of center provide a summary measure that attempts to describe a whole set of data with a single value that represents the middle or center of the distribution. A fun little exercise before you attempt your Hawks homework, give this problem a try. Try to find the mean, median, and mode of this data set. Once you've done that, give this problem a try. Try to calculate the weighted mean here. This is for GPA, not a grade. So this is very similar to what the university does to calculate your GPA.